and if you know a specific keyword that could connect with people, that could really help. So I think being able to be multifaceted in what you do, languages can help you connect with that. And teaching can do that too. Because once you know that the pedagogy, the teaching mode, man, you can become a teacher in so many areas. And not only in the classroom where you have students and you have a Monday through Friday, you know, whatever, 8 to 5, but you actually could be in colleges and in places and businesses and opportunities that you have to share in communities, even at churches or things like that you might attend. So you become a key person in our community. You're a life changer. A teacher changes lives not just by the content, but also the way that we connect with people in our engagement of teaching. And I think that's what's so valuable with teachers. When I went through school, my parents came here in the 80s to Lubbock to go to school for 2 years. Okay, we came from Mexico, so my parents can go to school. I went to school in a public school, Wilson Middle School. Worst years of my life. Okay, 2 years that it was miserable because I didn't speak English, and they put me in ESL, and I had to learn English, and you know, it's really hard for a 11-year-old or whatever 12-year-old kid to be in a place that you don't understand anything. But one of my best friends today is my ESL teacher, Miss Brown. She's reading my dissertation that I'm doing for my PhD work. She's still correcting my English, right? My commas, my periods, and all that stuff that otherwise I would have to pay like $20 an hour for editing. So I think at the end of the day, there's so much richness with the language part of it, but also the teaching part of it can open a lot of doors. You can become a trainer. You can become somebody that changes the community, the businesses that you might connect with. So,
I think we've all talked about why we decided to pursue a career in teaching, and the answer was we didn't. We just kind of fell into it. But the question of why has it been good for you, or why has it been good for us, I have to say that some of my favorite moments and some of my favorite things about being a teacher have nothing to do with my job description. I get to, and so does Mr. Hogan, by virtue of the fact that we are the only people in our respective departments, we get to have the same students multiple years in a row. And it's really great. And sometimes not. Sometimes, as you open the door on that first day, it's, oh, you, or oh, you. But we get to develop relationships with these kids, and you get to see someone grow up from being a uncontrolled and distracted 14-year-old all the way up to someone who is turning 18, talking to you about how they want to vote, talking to you about what they're planning on doing with their lives. They ask you to write their college recommendation letters. They come and talk to you when they have problems. And I know not all of us had particularly safe spaces we could go in high school, either physically or mentally. We didn't feel safe. And so to have this opportunity to create a safe space for young people who really need it can be really awe-inspiring to see what people can achieve, what these young people can achieve when given the chance and when given the attention. And I know it sounds kind of bleeding heart, but you will remember what your teachers taught you, but you will absolutely remember how they made you feel. And so 20 years from now, or like 40 in Omar's case, you might still remember your teacher and remember how they took something that you thought was going to be terrible and turned it into an enjoyable experience, that they made you feel like you mattered.
Just kind of to echo what they said, they brought up a good point that being the language teacher is what got you in the building, and that's your job. But there's weird little things, and it's the relationships, like what she said, that really makes the difference. That's why the students in your room is to learn German, so we can go through and read this and learn how to conjugate this and everything else. But seeing the students grow and see where their lives take off is also a strange part of teaching that I never thought I would think about, because it was just, I'm going to teach German. And then we had, like he mentioned, the PPR exam, where it's what do you do in this situation, and it's just baffling because I never thought about it. But we've all had students that come to us with help with tutorials, and that's totally common. We've had students that come to us that need help for other things as well, help in other classes. It's something as serious as safe space, or there's trouble at home that they need to get taken care of. And I just think of myself as a teacher, but they're the ones coming to us specifically for help. And it's like he had mentioned about what do you make? And it's not so much at the end of the day what we did in class. Oh, we conjugated this verb and we read 4 paragraphs that really made the difference. It's how you affect the kids and how you help them grow. It's really the far more important part of it. It's just being able to help the students, and then they come back as well. And in the good cases as well, like Omar mentioned that he had a student come back to say hello. I had a student that flew in from Florida and came in just to come say hi, and seeing that student that was happy and enjoyed the class and still remembered about a third of what we did in class was real helpful. But getting to see these kids develop into functional adult human beings is just a really great process that I don't think either one of us would have thought about at the time. We were just the language teachers, but lo and behold.
Absolutely. It sounds like there's a ripple effect in what you do moving out to the world. So that's amazing. Really making an impact. We're pretty much through with our questions. I wanted to leave some time for questions and answers. So some of you, we had a list of questions that were submitted ahead of time. So we'll start with those. And then if time is remaining, we will make this mic available. And you can come up or come to the stage and ask your question if we haven't covered it already. So let's just jump right in. The first question that was submitted ahead of time is the following. In light of the cost of attending college and the relatively low salaries teachers receive, how have you managed to follow your vocation and pay back student loans? Very practical question.
I haven't paid my student loans. I'm still in school. But no, I think in the area of cost, is being creative, with scholarships and being able to work while you're studying. I mean, I'm going to school as I'm teaching. I think you have to be able to do that. It would help you with your cost if you're able to do just a full-time job or just to work whenever you're not in school or the summers or things like that. It would be great. If you get a loan, don't wait until you graduate to pay it. You can already start paying it as you're doing it. You can already make some payments. Also, the beauty about education is that we're moving digitally. So like I said, I teach on the road. I teach from my iPad. I teach from my phone. You could do all these Canvas classrooms where you don't see face-to-face teachers, and you're getting paid. Once you have your curriculum, you have your classes, you have your setup, you are able to make money. So I know that maybe having several places that you work with might not necessarily be what you want, but it's really beneficial that education is moving that way. Because it allows you to be the expert in the field, but you're able to connect with different institutions that need your expertise, and that helps you with extra cash, extra money with that. So I think that would be my answer with loans. Definitely, I think it's better not to have the loans. I would definitely do that. My daughter is going to be a 12th grader next year, and we're looking at colleges already, and that's my first thing. I'm making sure that she doesn't do what I did. But I have way too much education. I've been in school for a long time, so that's why I have those loans. But I think definitely they're part of education. If you're able to pay your loans back with your salary that you want to make after, then I think it's worth the investment. If you don't believe in yourself, then nobody else will. If you don't even want to invest on your own person and what you're doing and what you believe that you can do, then nobody else will. So I think it shows how much commitment you have, how much you're willing to do this. And at the end of the day, this is part of what we do in life, so it's just like anything else. Very easily you go buy a truck and you end up with the same amount of money. My best friend went through a school, very expensive school in California. He paid his loans, and next week he bought a boat and a car. and he's like, I'm back to square one. So I think being wise, being committed, and being able to know that there's different ways that you can address that cost.
There are a series of loan forgiveness programs that are available for people who teach, specifically people who teach in high-need areas or people who teach in Title I schools. And so it is entirely possible to get some or even all of your loans forgiven if you are able to enroll in those programs. Some school districts will offer you an incentive of, I think recently it was $10,000 just cash if you went and committed to working on a particular campus for a couple years. But also, I want you to think about the jobs you might have right now. You could be making like $7.50, $8 an hour, possibly more than that, depending on what kinds of jobs you're working at right now. When I was in grad school, I was making $1,200 a month in the history department. And according to some of the other departments, that was pretty nice. That was a pretty sweet chunk of cash. But compared to grad school and undergrad, even though teachers, I absolutely believe, are not fairly compensated for their time and their passion, I make bank compared to what I was making then. And the other thing that's been really helpful, I told you I met my husband at my job, so it's a nice hunting ground. I'm kidding. But if you have two teacher incomes, that's close to $100,000 for a household, and that is not bad in our economy at all. So it's entirely possible to pay off loans, to pay for expensive things. We have a toddler. Toddlers are expensive. And then they break your expensive things and you have to replace them, and that's expensive. But we also get to travel a lot, which sounds weird, teachers having to travel for trainings. Last summer, I got to go to St. Pete's Beach, Florida, which is outside of Tampa, and stay in a resort paid for entirely by the school district, while I was going to courses for half of the day and then hanging out on the beach for the other half of the day. We call those teacher vacations. But you can absolutely enjoy the perks of having a job like this and still get to pay off things and live a decent life in the kind of economy we have. Another example is there are travel companies that specifically want teachers, even more teachers of languages other than English, to work for them. So this summer, I'm currently in the final rounds of interviews to work for CIEE, which is a major travel company, as a global program leader, which means that I would get to travel and spend a couple of weeks abroad, essentially being a resident advisor for high school students with all expenses paid, plus money on top of that. So it's possible.
Also, I mean, what are you going to do when you're 70 besides pay off student loans? What are your plans? Student loans are terrible and unfortunate, but like she said, if you want to be a doctor, there's more likely going to be student loans for that as well. I've gotten to do some amazing things because I'm a teacher as well. I was awarded a complete package to be able to go to one of the Goethe Institutes in New York for teacher training for a weekend, and I didn't have to pay for anything, and it was just being a German teacher was what got me there. Also, I'm leading a group to Germany in spring break, and I'm not even paying a third of the price for it. Being a teacher, being somebody who's going to be able to speak the language, you get incredibly compensated for it, and so it's fantastic. Also, with German teachers as well, there are organizations in Germany that actually pay for everything, which doesn't make sense, but they fly in Americans who teach German to Germany to teach you how to teach that language. It makes no sense, but they're willing to get you there to do it, so let's just do that. And as long as you keep your student loans down as much as possible, if they're going to give you $1 million per month, don't take it, just take what you need, because like I said, 40 years is an awful long time, but like they said, it's totally doable to do this. It's not like your student loans are going to be the end of the universe. You can keep them low, you can get a good paying job, and there are government programs that'll help reduce how much you have to pay, or even all of it if you're there for long enough. And where you teach makes a difference as well. Like she said, different districts, different places, everything like that will give you incredible sign-on bonuses to go teach there. So just because you're a teacher doesn't mean you have to go to the closest place. You can shop around and see that they will fight for you and pay more money, and you can negotiate your contract based on it. It's not like you're locked into making dirt. You can make potting soil.